Tell me, what has been the role of spirituality in your life, and how does an emerging MBA corporate fresher, what should they start doing?
When you sleep, do not watch a spicy TV program or on your WhatsApp trash. All that is part of spirituality.
So if I have to ask you about diligence, what does it mean?
3 things in fact. Life is a marathon, not a 100-meter race. Don't be a meteor. Be like a duck. The pillars and the foundation of leadership, knowledge and character. If you can control 3 things, sleep, sex and food, all good major innovations have come out of such iconoclasts. When did man land on the moon? 1969. Ladies and gentlemen, when did man decide to put wheels on your suitcases? That is how stupid we are. We landed on the moon first.
आजकल की जो जनरेशन कॉर्पोरेट में है, do you think they have some issues with authority?
Yes.
Feel like you're drowning in expectations, like no matter what you do, it's never enough. Welcome to the corporate world. But here's the thing, it doesn't have to be this way. And our guest today, Brigadier Sanjay Agarwal, has seen pressure at a whole different level. And today, he's breaking down how to survive and thrive in this chaos. In today's episode, we are getting into real, no-nonsense career lessons. Why your career is a marathon, not a sprint. Why you shouldn't be a meteor, shiny today, gone tomorrow. Why this too shall pass isn't just a feel-good phrase. It's a mental survival toolkit. And the big one, moral courage. Praise in public, criticize in private. Be firm, not bitter. Lead by serving, not shouting. So if you are an MBA grad, a fresher, or just trying to figure out this corporate maze, tune in, because this episode might just save your career. Thank you, Brigadier, for coming on the podcast. It's been a pleasure. I wanted to come directly to the main question that I have to begin with. So I've seen when we talk about the corporates, the working professionals, many people, they crack under pressure. And in army, cracking under pressure may mean death. Now, if I have to ask you to begin with, what's that one trait you look into someone that they must have to deal the pressure? What would that be? Let's start from there.
That's a simple one. It's a commonly faced situation, and therefore the answer would be composure under stress, uncertainty, and when in the gray zone. Composure, equanimity, because it is this which allows us to think clearly and act rationally. The panic is contagious, but we forget so is the calm. So if the leader is calm and composed, that also is contagious. And some people believe that resilience is the key, because I've had these kinds of discussions earlier. But I would like to suggest that the dictionary meaning of resilience indicates bouncing back. Whereas here we are talking of composure as an ability to function in the moment, in the stressful moment. So resilience is important, but to answer your question, it would be composure under stress.
So let me break it up. I want to break it up for our audience. So the audience that is listening to us right now, maybe the undergrads, the graduates, the MBAs, the working professionals. And for them, pressure is a synonym that they have seen in all of their lives, be it MBA, be it they come to the corporate, be it their 12th or 10th. Now, I think you have said it very simply by saying composure. Do you want to elaborate a little bit more into this? When you say composure, what does it mean for a student who has just entered into MBA, or for an MBA who has just entered into corporate, or someone from corporate who have just started getting to the next role of his career? How does composure fits into all of this?
So basically, how do you get composure? I think that's what you are aiming at for the benefit of our viewers.
Correct.
So composure is a product of diligence, foresight, contingency planning, being ready to expect the unexpected, having a wealth of experience, both theoretical and practical, and being ready to apply it and face the consequences of wrong decisions. So, the confidence in yourself to face the flak should it happen. All of this combines to give you that intuition. Plus, I would add very importantly, spirituality. Simple breathing techniques. You do this 3 times, there is more oxygen in your brain, your decision making is better. So, all of this combines to help you stay composed. And lastly, all religions talk about it, the intransigence of the present. This too shall pass. Ye bhi guzar jayega. So, that aspect also adds to your composure. Do your best and leave unto God the rest.
I want to stay on this topic for a little more moment here. So you mentioned about diligence, spirituality, and this moment too shall pass. And in my previous conversations, I've seen many delegates or people who are at a higher position or have achieved something in their life. They specifically talk about spirituality. And it is something that is common everywhere. And I was thinking that people at higher ups the order, they don't talk about it. You have talked about it as well. Tell me, what has been the role of spirituality in your life, and how does an emerging MBA corporate fresher, what should they start doing? Which, and if I can say this, take out your pen and paper. This is going to be very interesting. So something which can be do this, and then it may not be, you can start doing it from day one, but start following some steps to start getting there. So talk about this spirituality. I'm in just love with this notion that everyone is talking about nowadays.
So I wasn't expecting this question. Let me tell you, dear viewers, I was initiated in 1972. That's 52 years ago.
Wow.
Diksha mili thi mujhe 52 years ago. And that was in the Ramakrishna mission. And since that journey, I have moved on into religion. And under the guidance initially of my parents and of the various gurus of various sects within the Sanatan Dharma.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, I got a feeling, what is the purpose of this human life? It cannot be to eat, shit, procreate only.
Yeah.
There has to be a higher purpose. Whilst religion is important for its rituals and to give you a good base, there is a certain amount of kuch jaan ke chalo, kuch maan ke chalo. And as a rational thinking youth today, kuch maan ke chalo doesn't agree with them. They want answers.
Yes.
And therefore, spirituality which is bereft of the rituals, bereft of anything which is without explanation, then you come to good practices. Now that vibes with the corporate world. Good business practices. Getting up early. Sleeping, having dinner early and then sleeping not before 2 hours, which means have dinner around sunset like the Jains do, and then stay awake for 2-3 hours so that your digestion can take care. Don't have non-veg. And then when you sleep, do not watch a spicy TV program or on your WhatsApp trash. All that is part of spirituality. Yeah. And then when you sleep, say a prayer of thankfulness to whatever supreme consciousness you believe. So I'm not talking religion.
Yeah.
And then when you get up with a feeling of gratitude. Yes. Thank you. I am alive. My nuclear family is alive. There is no news of my larger family, any untoward thing. Thank you. Kritagyata ka bhav. An attitude of gratitude. So these things, and then when you come to spirituality, as I said earlier, you add in Ashtanga Yoga it directly helps. What is yoga? Union. So we are looking at life holistically, not compartmentalized. And therefore, it is very important for us in the morning to shake our limbs, whether like when Rakesh Sharma, squadron leader then in the mid 1980s, was sent as the first Indian astronaut, and he came back and said they all make us do yoga, but they call it relaxation training in NASA. So you can do yoga, stretch your body, which is very scientific. And now we know that for the last few years, the world has accepted India's suggestion to make 21st June International Yoga Day. And it has got a lot of traction. People have benefited by the millions. So yoga, breathing, I just gave you an example. And even when we do our firing, we are taught to breathe in, breathe out half, and then press the trigger. So all of this is very scientific. Spirituality is not mumbo jumbo. Spirituality as a foundation of a wholesome, stress-free life, the way nature designed it, is a very strong pillar. It does not put down whichever religion one is from. Please go ahead with that. But it is a very wholesome perspective. I follow my religion, the other person follows his or hers, which is okay. We both believe that a breath is a connection between this and the upper, just like a kite, which is the upper, and I am controlling the kite through a thread. Saddhi and Manja. Similarly, the breath is that bridge which is linking us with the superior. So spirituality, I could go on for hours. I've spoken abroad on World Religion Day. I think this much should be.
And I didn't want to cut you because this was such a resonating conversation. Because if I give you my example, and I've said this on the previous podcast as well, there comes a calling time for everyone. And I believe that. I'm a strong believer of that. जब से मैंने spirituality को जाना है, a little bit, not much, I have seen a change in my demeanor, the way I think, the way I talk, and the way I perceive people. You know, if you remember in our lead up to this, we were having a conversation and I brought up these two words, perception and perspective. I think all of this has been my connection to spirituality. And the reason I want to discuss so much in detail, because in the corporates, in your MBAs, in your graduations, if you're preparing for AIR or for your examinations, this is such a vital part of your overall demeanor and preparing. Because if you're not calm, you cannot prepare. You have so many things going on in your head all the time, and you will always be tensed. I'm not sure what's happening now.
So let me give you one more example. It struck me that I always quote. And you can say it is religion, but it is common to all religions. And that is the concept of work without attachment to the results thereof. Sanatan Dharma calls it Nishkam Karma. Work without attachment to the results thereof. So this concept, when applied even in business situations, as I said earlier, do your best and leave unto God the rest. You will actually find that your stress is lowered and therefore you function better.
I feel that. I just want to move on to the next point, and I'm keeping this in mind, in view, that the listeners here are some of the group that are about to go into the corporate world. And there are some that are still there and they haven't found their footing yet. You used the word diligence. If I ask you and I know you have been speaking in so many different forums about leadership, and the way you make it understand to someone, it's so easy. It is something that I vibe so much with. So if I have to ask you about diligence in simple language to an upcoming employee, what does it mean? Not in terms of a definition, but sometimes some things that he or she can actually employ to their job.
Okay. So as my children were growing up, right from class 8 onwards, my daughter's about 40 years plus now. So I used to tell them something which will answer your question. 3 things, in fact. Number one, life is a marathon, not a 100-meter race. You are asking me how would I define diligence or what I understand out of it in practical terms.
Yes.
Life is a marathon, not a 100-meter race. Correct. Number one. Don't be a meteor. What does a meteor do? Comes in with a flash, and burn out, and that's the end of the story.
Yes.
Third and last, be like a duck.
That's interesting.
So think of a duck, viewers, in a pond. The duck is gliding, and there are beautiful 3 ripples this side, 3 ripples this side. Beautiful, poetic, aesthetic. But what is happening underwater? The webbed feet are furiously pedaling unknown to the public. There is a lot of hard work behind that poise and smooth glide. That's diligence. When you get up in Brahma Muhurt and you practice, whether you're an athlete or you're a film personality or you're preparing for your exams, there's a lot of sacrifice which people don't come to know. Yeah. That is diligence. Your contingency planning is diligence. So, life is a marathon, not a 100-meter race. And even if it didn't come useful now, like when you throw these bouncers at me, all of life's hard work and that thing in the back of your head helps you formulate answers, and people say, oh yes, this vibes with me. So that is the diligence of the past, which I'm encashing on right now.
Yes, thank you so much. And this too shall pass. It's so easy to say. And I have seen people struggle. This is such a simple line. But मैंने अपने friends, अपने relatives देखे हैं who cannot let go of things which happened, and that impacts their future career goals because they just stay, मेरे साथ ये हो गया, उसके साथ नहीं हुआ, किसी ने मेरा वो credit ले लिया, मेरे को मिलना चाहिए था, and they just sulk and sunk into that. So if someone has to come to you and say, sir, मुझे बिल्कुल plain भाषा में समझाओ कि मैं कैसे करूँ ये.
So this too shall pass. How do we experience this and accept it? Because your point is valid. Many people don't accept it.
Yeah.
And they get stuck in that groove. So let me give you a difficult answer in 2 lines and then elaborate. In 2005, I started doing Vipassana.
Yeah.
It is one of the parts of Buddhism.
Yeah.
And in Vipassana, they start you off, it's a 10.5-day intense meditation course, camp. First 4 days you do anapan, which is just watching your breath. I'm breathing in, I'm breathing out, and you're focused here.
Yeah.
And thereafter, the analogy given is of a bucket of muddy water. When you let the bucket be still, the mud settles down and you can watch the coin and the bottom of the bucket, which you could not earlier.
That's awesome.
Which is exactly the state of our mind, and that is why I focus on equanimity.
Yes.
Keep it still. So then, after having done 4 days of anapan in Vipassana, now you are supposed to watch the sensations on your body. No mumbo jumbo, nothing except actual what am I feeling. I'm feeling itchy. There's a fly buzzing near my right ear, it's distracting me. And slowly you will feel I'm feeling scratchy on my back. And if you don't scratch, you slowly find that itchiness disappears.
Yes.
What is happening is you are by pragya. Pragya means pratyaksha gyan. Practical experiential learning. Pratyaksha gyan, pragya. By practical experiential learning, you are understanding this too shall pass. I was feeling itchy, it is going. I am getting a feeling of anger because this chap, whatever he did or did not do as per my expectations or in violation of them.
Yes.
2 deep breaths. And now comes a very important concept of Sakshi Bhav, the attitude of a witness. Who is feeling angry? Am I the thing, the being that is feeling angry? My mind is feeling angry. We loosely say I, but when you go into it, I am feeling angry. So the moment you say I am feeling angry, you realize that you have separated yourself from that I. Because you are saying I am feeling angry, means you are the witness. You are not the person who's feeling angry. Bhogyam Bhokta. Remember Adi Shankaracharya and Nirvan Shatakam. Namay Dvesh Rago. He has defined what all I am not. So I am not the person enjoying the fruit. I am something else. Witness. So all this will help you get out of that, this too shall pass is a theory. It actually happens. And I've given you the practical, experiential learning thing. Your knee is paining when you sit down cross-legged. Of course, there are many reasons. But if all other things are under reasonable control and you practice sitting in Padmasana cross-legged, you will find in a month you are able to. So this is a fact, a scientific fact.
And this is awesome. I just want to just bring this question to an end with the first line I said, that in army, failure means death, can mean death sometimes. And in our previous conversation, I think I want to bring this up. In my intro to you, and it's not love. I was so intrigued because when I was giving the introduction, I mentioned that he has been declared dead twice. And just tell me, when you were in that situation the first time, there would have been a whole plethora of feelings inside you, like you would be under immense pressure. What's going to happen to my family now? I'm going, it would have been something I can't even imagine. I don't know how many people can actually imagine this, because they're never in that situation. Even though it's not a apple to apple comparison, अगर मैं अपनी बात करूं, when I was in just entering the corporate, मेरे लिए life ending moment क्या था? मेरी promotion नहीं हो पा रही है. Someone has taken credit of my work, which is very minuscule when I compare to what you have seen. So what component of pressure was in your mind at that time? And if you want to narrate a little bit of that story, if that is okay with you, like what happened, and then what component of pressure you think was there, something that the audience can relate with. And I'm sorry, I know this is something I want to put you in a spot so that we can learn as much as we can from you.
So, what do you feel at that moment? Let me give you an example which English readers, English lovers understand, and that is, it is calm in the eye of the storm. Think of that. And second, again, because of diligence, if you have had all your joint accounts, all your finances in joint with your parents, and if you are married with your spouse, if you have done all that needed to be done before you conked off, then the feeling is a bit less worrisome. Secondly, I always used to address this question to my men, and I must tell you that it may not apply so much in the corporate world, but somewhere it does, because one person said, I have faced this with your answer. And that is, every night almost we used to go out for ambushes in Kashmir at the peak of the militancy there, right from 1991 till 1997. I spent 14 years in J&K. So I would tell my men, and they are the Kumaon regiment people. Kumaunis are superstitious.
Yes.
I said, Bahadur ek bar marta hai. A brave person dies once with a bullet in the chest, not in his back. But a coward, fearing death, dies 1,000 deaths.
Yes.
And of course, there is that famous Western poem, How more gloriously can a man die than defending the flag and the ashes of his fathers?
Wow.
There's a long poem there. So when you talk to your men like this, it motivates them to make the supreme sacrifice or be ready to make it. And importantly, it helps you to bolster your conviction to lead from the front and be the first one, if required, to make that sacrifice. And the good part is, the moment you are bold, which is different from being foolhardy, you are actually increasing your chances of survival.
Survival, yeah.
Whereas if you were cowardly, the chances of unsavory incidents were more.
Yeah.
So that confidence, that bravery, as distinct, and I must tell you, not foolhardy, it helps. And you are able to address this issue. So when you are there in the eye of the storm, it is calm because you know I have done everything. You know that I have lived a decent, proper, clean life. You know that I have empowered my family. And A, the government will look after in whatever its schemes. B, the spouse can stand on his or her own feet. And the children, if they are there, they will be able to face the world. And this is how it was meant to be.
Yeah.
So a certain amount of fatalism also helps a certain amount of it. So it's a balance of all this. And at that moment, if you start thinking about these distractions, it can be very bad. And that is something which shows up straight away. Lekin sir, maine ye nahi kiya, wo nahi kiya. You go to a hospital, when a person is told he's got a week to live, there are certain people who remain calm and composed. And there are certain who get into, and they're hastening their end by worrying about things which they should have done in the last 5 years.
Correct.
So that is how I view it.
And again, I have something which you mentioned is so interesting. You said, don't be coward. And there's a difference between boldness and foolhardy, right? Now, I associate that cowardness so much with a corporate or with an MBA. And I'll tell you how I'm saying this. What happens in corporates, or let's talk about the MBAs first. You have so much of pressure. And the pressure is you have to submit an assignment. Now, so suppose you're not able to do it. Many people will feel pressure that अगर मैंने ये नहीं दिया time पे तो मेरे marks suffer करेंगे. And उसका trade-off क्या है? Trade-off is that they don't learn anything from that assignment. Then it becomes a race against time. That is one thing. So I think वहाँ पे students are becoming too much of coward. Coward is not the right word, but they are becoming too much oriented toward the marks only, no knowledge. Second is in the corporate. Now, when we have, I think it's a terminology from the corporates, from the army, which is war rooms, that we have inculcated in the corporates as well. Now, in the corporate, when we say, don't be coward, I can relate so much, because if you have something to say, and if you think your superior might not like it, you will stay mum. You will say, अगर मैंने बोल दिया शायद मेरे को नहीं समझेगा, and it is better to stay quiet. And then you will sunk on this after 5 days, 10 days, बोल दिया होता, no one listens to me. So this coward word, if the way I have described it, I'm not sure what your thought is, but if you have to amalgamate this word coward with MBAs, or if someone might have asked you this question, you speak so much and everywhere in the world. So is there someone who has reached out to you with such a thought process of linking coward with any of the work from MBA or corporates?
No, nobody has to reach out, because I cover this in my leadership talks.
Mm-hmm.
And typically when I'm talking to non-military audiences, I stress on what are the pillars of leadership.
Yes.
And because I was advisor at a place where civil engineering was involved with the National Highway Authority of India, therefore, and I used to teach at the Indian Academy of Highway Engineers, I still do. What are the pillars and the foundation of leadership? I give an example of a building. The foundation pillars are two: knowledge and character. Knowledge of people and profession. And notice I said people first. Though you may be into coding, though you may be a chartered accountant, you may be a doctor, but as you rise, your people skills take precedence and become more important because you are handling people as you go up. And your professional hardcore coding or chartered accountant or medical skills are very much required, but then you have many specialists below you. So people skills first. As you grow up, you start with professional skills and then gradually people skills. On the other side, you had, I said, character. And in character, courage, to answer your question. In the military,
Yeah.
at the cutting edge, it is physical courage. But even in the military and very much in the corporate world, there, as you rise in the military, the chances where you may be required to demonstrate physical courage would be few. But moral courage, you are required to possess it intrinsically and exhibit it on a daily basis in whichever profession you are, military or non-military, corporate or government. Moral courage is very important. So that is where moral courage is. And the second thing, part of character, is initiative. Not
Yes.
taking decisions
Yeah.
on a wisecrack. It's also a decision. Yes, in diplomacy and statesmanship, yes. But fundamentally, windows of opportunity in the corporate world are fleeting.
Yeah.
And the entrepreneur who can exploit those fleeting windows of opportunity by taking initiative will succeed. And the third part of character is willpower.
Yeah.
So I've said knowledge of profession and people, character with initiative, courage, and willpower. And then the question in people's mind is, because I've been asked, so how do we increase our willpower?
Yeah.
Ichha Shakti. Kaise बढ़ाएं? So the answer in the scriptures is, if you can control three things: sleep, sex, and food, they directly contribute to bolstering your willpower. Sleep, sex, and food. Think about your mothers and grandmothers. 4 days a week they used to keep a vrat. आज संतोषी का माँ का व्रत है, आज हनुमान जी का व्रत है, आज फलाना व्रत है, आज फलाना व्रत है, आज निर्जला व्रत है, आज नमक नहीं खाएंगे, आज फलाना व्रत है, आज मौन व्रत है. So these are the ways to build the overall picture of leadership. And you were on courage, and I got this onto moral courage, which is a daily requirement, a constant requirement for everybody. Physical courage for non-military person would be required when the situation so demands, but moral courage very much required everywhere.
You mentioned about moral courage, and then you mentioned one sentence which is, in corporate, the chances of initiatives are fleeting. There is less window.
Chances of opportunities are fleeting. And therefore initiative is critical to seize that fleeting window of opportunity.
Correct. So let's stay on that for a moment. Now, I am a fresher who has just joined, and I am into the organization for more than 8 months or 10 months at max, less than 1 year. And I have those initiative thoughts. I want to do that. But on a practical note, maybe my manager, he or she thinks that I'm very new and I'm not good for this right now. I need more experience. But I know inside or innately that I have those. Now, a fresher or a beginner going through these thoughts, what are the things that you will suggest?
So a cynic would say, hide your brilliance under a bushel. And there is some merit in that advice too. However, let me give you an example from the Indian Air Force.
Mm-hmm.
Our fighter pilots, today, of course, the socio-economic landscape of our country has changed, and you all buy cars just about when you join your jobs. But let me tell you, when I became an officer in 1979, My colleagues learned flying a fighter aircraft first, and they learned driving a car later. And therefore, why am I telling you this? These young boys, and that time there were no women in the Air Force, they give their experiences of the dogfight practice in the air. And that young, fresh, inexperienced blood is listened to very carefully, very respectfully by the senior veterans, the Top Guns, Tom Cruise types. So, what I'm saying is, it is a balance. You should know when to hide your brilliance, being the youngster, and validate your theories more. And even when you have to say them as loud thinking rather than with very firm conviction and being abrasive. And equally, the veteran, the senior person there in that business, in that management, understands that if this young blood is nipped in the bud, if it is humiliated, if it is made to feel small, they will shrivel.
Yeah.
And therefore, for their wholesome growth, praise in public,
Yeah.
criticize in private.
Private, yeah.
And therefore say, okay, we'll discuss this over the tea break. Suffice to say that there is a point, but in certain contexts, this would be applicable. So you moderate your thoughts. And if you are the senior guy, do not stub out the enthusiasm of a young person. Even you are required to contradict or refute the point, do so without taking away the self-respect of that other person. And this is something I will now quote something in Hindi that I have told very many people within typically the military. When you are a top person, kathorta, yes. Katuta, no. Kathorta is being firm. Katuta is being bitter. Don't be bitter. We could never speak like this. How dare he? I'm sorry. That's an inappropriate thought. And if you articulate it, you're stupid. So, katuta nahi. Kathorta, haan. Katuta nahi. For a senior person, he can be hard. Paucity of time, we will discuss this separately. For now, let's go with the consensus, the majority, which is this. And there may be something good coming out of this out-of-the-box thinking. All good major innovations have come out of such iconoclasts, out of such out-of-the-box thinkers, out of such people who challenge tradition, who challenge procedure. They are the ones who have helped us develop further. Otherwise, let me give you a counter example of how stupid humankind is. Think about it. When did man land on the moon? 1969. Ladies and gentlemen, when did man decide to put wheels on your suitcases? That is how stupid we are. We landed on the moon first because we never listened to our young people with bright ideas. And therefore I teach this, that please listen. You have put wheels on suitcases after you've landed on the moon.
This gave a segue to one of the other questions I have in mind about authority. So you became a vocal in your conversation about let the young blood speak their mind. Do not snub them. Now, what I see, and you mentioned one thing very importantly, that हमारे टाइम पे ऐसा नहीं होता था, but अब ऐसा होता है. So in that case, आजकल in the corporate, it's a different culture altogether. Like if I just remember my initial venture in the corporate, which was about 22 years ago, at that time, we had to say the person with sir in the beginning. Otherwise, he or she would mind it. But आजकल के scenario में, it's not there.
It's first name basis.
Exactly. And now my question is, so do you think आजकल की जो generation corporate में है, do you think they have some issues with authority? Or do you think that क्योंकि अगर if they can bring this up to the forum saying आपके ज़माने में होता था but यहाँ पे नहीं होगा, and the boss says no, you have to do it. So there's an authority coming in, and some of the Gen Zs or the new terms that are coming nowadays, what's your thought on that? How is that placing in the board of puzzles, where do you see them? Is it is evolution? How should a newbie should think of that?
So let me tell you this way that yes, there are some people who may have a problem with authority, but fundamentally that's not the way I look at it. I feel there is a segment of people who view authority differently and have a different relationship with authority. They have a different relationship with authority and they do not like absolute authority, unquestioned authority. And separately, they do not like unearned authority. Because you are the business owner, loosely called Lalaji's son, it is unearned authority till you get your hands dirty and prove yourself on the shop floor, manufacturing floor, or whatever it is. So the relationship with authority has changed. And yes, even earlier people didn't like absolute authority, which should not be there in most cases. And clearly people don't like unearned authority. So these are the differences that I would make. Also, I would tell you now on the flip side, on the senior person's side. You see, companies value open communication. You hold town halls. You solicit feedback. Now, this chap is a young intern, not very tactful in giving the feedback. And therefore, this open communication and tactless feedback is now taken to be resistance to authority, which is not the intention of that fresher. So please be empathetic. There may be a language problem. That guy may be a Frenchman. His English is just pass, average. So think of it that way. And this, when I teach, because I have taught international audiences, I have been teaching for the Indian franchisee of Stratford University. I am ongoing right now covering a course for the last 12 years, and it's on right now on ethics and corporate governance with the IMT Ghaziabad. And otherwise, I'm a distinguished professor with SRM University, Chennai. I cover these things for both sides. The youngsters need to keep certain things in mind, and equally, the elders need to keep in mind what is the intent of that person. And do not confuse semantics with intent. Also, I would say that for a senior, leadership should not be about suppressing dissent. Leadership should be about earning respect through my personal example, through my competence.
Now, I am just representing a fresher, or not even a fresher, let's say a mid-level kind of a employee. Now, to me, I would like to do things my way. I'm an individual contributor as well as a team player. Now, if you are my manager and if I come to you and you snub me the first, second, and third time, I might become resistant to my suggestions to you, and I will not take your feedback clearly. And that happens in corporate every single day. I've seen that happening. Now, in that case, what you're sharing is great, but when it comes to on the ground thing,
I have always mentioned this, not only in the military, but all my civil non-military professorship. Dissent is desirable at the discussion stage. But at the execution stage, there are two options and only two options, and my view. So dissent and constructive criticism and out-of-the-box thinking, all that at the dissent stage is not only allowed, it is desirable, it is essential to come to the best possible options. But when you come to execution stage, the option one is compliance. And if there are other issues coming up, then the second option is viable mid-course corrections be suggested. Constructive mid-course suggestions for correction. Constructive. Not I told you so. मैंने तो कहा था. देख लिया? आ जाते हैं ऊपर से टपक के सीनियर मैनेजर बन के. Constructive mid-course suggestions for correction. And I'll give you very good examples. See what happened in demonetization, 2016, November.
Yeah.
The situation was a typical VUCA situation. And there, the government reacted beautifully. They kept updating their directions, policies, and orders based on fresh situations and circumstances coming. And ditto at COVID. And I am on record on all TV channels. In fact, I was grilled by Arnab Goswami. And the friend said, you have spoken for 1 minute, 12 seconds without Arnab interrupting you. This is a world record. And I repeated this to Arnab in the next time I met him. Kata, well, you must have been talking sense, sir. Because Arnab is known to interrupt people very ruthlessly.
The nation wants to know that.
So, the point I'm making here is that at COVID time, the government responding to new things. The Prime Minister had made 4 committees. They had subcommittees. So you were in the pipeline to feed ideas, etc. They had reached out to people who had sensible ideas. The point is, your ideas were taken. Now you can't go up and humiliate the other person and prove the other person wrong. If your intention is to get the work done, then please be a cooperative team member and ideally be a servant leader. When success is achieved, the people say, we did it. That is the hallmark of a bottoms-up leader from within. He or she is exercising leadership. But when there is success, the people say, we did it. And when there is failure, this leader will say, me. I was wrong in a fundamental issue. I take responsibility. Classic example, APJ Abdul Kalam, our rocket expert and honorable president.
So, I want to be devil's advocate here. What you're saying, I completely agree with everything. But I'm saying on the ground, people do not have this kind of mindset the way you're explaining. This is good to know. This might be something that can be taught in the class. But when it comes to the actual scenario, people generally on the other side means the managers, they will not at all think rationally like what you're saying. So if someone is listening right now from a corporate perspective, he'll say, यार कुणाल ये मैंने सुना हुआ है, मुझे ये सब पता है, ऐसे ही करते हैं, ऐसे ही करना चाहिए, बट कोई करता नहीं है ऐसे. If you come on the ground, you're just talking things from 10,000 feet above the ground. तुम सिर्फ ऊपर की बातें कर रहे हो अभी. So tell me कि मेरे साथ ये हो रहा है. मैं अपने मैनेजर को 2-3 बार बोल चुका हूँ कि मुझे समझो, मेरा अप्रेजल चल रहा है या मेरा परफॉर्मेंस डिस्कशन चल रहा है, मुझे I am not happy with what has given to me or what has been reported for me. But मुझे क्या करना चाहिए? Should I switch jobs? Should I stay in the company? I know I'm good, but my manager is not good. He's not listening to me. So on the ground, क्या हमें उसको बताना चाहिए?
Hide your brilliance under a bushel.
Yes.
And this too shall pass.
Pass, exactly.
So the point here is, what you are saying is true in cases, but let me give you a real life positive example which is opposite of what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
And this example is from the corporate manufacturing sector, and it is at least 30 years old.
30?
Yes, I read it in the Harvard Business Review as a young officer,
Mm-hmm.
and I became an officer, 46 years ago.
Wow.
And this example pertains to Toyota.
Mm-hmm.
And we all know Toyota for excellence. So the Americans wanted to know, they had the big 3 in Detroit, as to why is it that, what is in the DNA of Toyota that we don't have?
Mm-hmm.
So they groomed a fellow and they created a history, and they must have fudged some WorkX records and all, and he got recruited into Toyota. And what did Toyota ask him to do? He was not a fresher, some senior, 7-8 years, whatever. Please sit in that little box which is meant to overview for the supervisors, and keep sitting and keep watching the assembly line. At each stage, you can walk down and check things. You can ask people things. So the whole day passed. Next day, they said, you have to tell us what can we do better. And you will keep sitting here till you can tell us that. This is your job. to start with. So after a lot of watching, after a lot of talking, and remember the Japanese have the total quality circles and all, where the workers sit down at the end of the workday and talk to each other. He came up with a small minor improvement. And they said, good. Now you have got our way. We listen to our juniors. They will tell us how to do and what to do, TQM. Because when I teach lean management, I have held FDPs for professors of 67 universities. These are the kinds of things which are happening. Let me give you an example. I was told by the government of India to escort a VVIP from a foreign country on an unannounced visit, and I was taken to various places as a brigadier. So I was given a jet and to fly him around. They were taken to BEL, Bharat Electronics. And what do I find there? Which I will not say in front of that VIP, so I took 10 steps back. And naturally, the CMD and everybody were there in line. So I said, CMD is too senior. I said, who is the general manager who is in charge of this entire thing? So and so. I said, see, this lady is soldering on radio sets. And those radio sets I use in war. And they go bad and we die. Because the radio sets become faulty. She is soldering like this on a table. Her soldering iron is 14 inches long. It needs to be only 5 inches long.
That's what I was
because
thinking.
she's doing minute work. Why should this go till there? Number one. Number two, the light shadow of her hand is falling on the spot where she is soldering. Now, I've just given you a Toyota example. My heart wept because we have lost people because radio communication failed. And here is the thing. And because I was in a position where he could say, I said, look, I will be reporting this officially, not as a part of the visit, but it is surprising that you all, this is what you're doing. So please, by the time we reach back in Delhi in 5 days, if there could be an informal fax sent to me that this has been resolved and a photograph. So the point is, yes, there are managers who don't listen, but if I may say, the youngsters have the upper edge, the young blood has the upper edge. Let me give you another very good example. And this I saw in 1990 December.
Wow.
That is how many years? 35 years ago. And why do I remember 1995 December? We do a course, 1-year course at Wellington, which is in Tamil Nadu, and we go for an industrial tour. So we went to Akurdi. Akurdi is a place near Pune where the Bajaj scooter manufacturing factory is. And those days, 1991, mopeds were coming up. So TVS had a TVS 50. And Bajaj was coming up or had an M50 and an M90. I may be forgetting the exact nomenclature of that model. So I saw a kiddies playroom, jazzily kiddies done up, thermocol, chart paper, glue, and a glass all around for the children's safety. But there were no children. And there were no children chairs and no this thing. So there was something dissonant about that. So I asked whoever was taking us around. So he smiled. He said, I'll tell you, you got it. So coffee break time, I asked him, what was that? So I had various funny options. He said, we have 2 immediate pass outs from Ferguson College. Ferguson is a college in Pune. 2 pass outs who sit in this room. Their only job is to play with thermocol, plasticine, clay, chart paper, cardboard, talk to the people around in the college, maybe talk to the villagers, the doodh wale ki beti, what kind of vehicles, 2-wheelers should we design?
Oh.
So I must have given a quizzical look. So he said, do you realize that the difference between a motorcycle and a moped, it's a mini motorcycle, but there's one important difference. What? He said, rural women still wear saris. And we want a front open, which is sari convenient, which a scooter is, but a motorcycle is not. So the moped must be front sari convenient. What a thought.
Yes.
So when you listen to people, when I'm talking of 36 years ago,
Yeah.
companies do listen. It is also a fact what you said, that inadequately sensitized managers still are in that old non-productive groove. That is also a partial reality, unfortunately. But I always like to look at the cup as half full and promote the positivity part of it.
So, Brigadier, since this has been an eye opener kind of a discussion with me, I loved it. Now, before we kind of wrap it up, one thing stayed with me that you said in the beginning, and I took a note specially for that, which was you got initiated in 1972. And you have spoken in length in our initial conversation the importance of being spiritual. If there is one shlok that you think, this is what, if I speak in my mind or recite, it brings calmness, and then it too shall pass. So, what is that one shlok that you might have with you? Share it with the world.
So there is not really one shlok, but yes, there are certain thoughts which also function as emergency first aid when required. And as you have been repeating this, one of those thoughts is, this too shall pass. The primary thought, which courtesy my parents and my earlier influencers and my prarabdh, my past, has given me is, work is worship. I saw my father following this mantra very diligently. Work is worship. And the second one, corollary, was again, which I have spoken about in our interaction today, is nishkam karma, work without attachment to the results thereof. So these two in the English canvas. And when we come to the vernacular, the Gayatri mantra, Om Bhur Bhuvasva Tatsavetur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yona Prachodayata, and the Mahamrityunjay mantra, Om Triambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushti Vardhanam Guruvarukamiva Bandhanat Mrityor Mokshi Yamamritata.
This is great. And I'm falling short of words, adjectives, to be honest. I started this conversation with a plain thought: what can the emerging professionals or the upcoming leaders like MBAs or undergrads learn from him? And I think we have just touched the surface. Now, for all the people out there, this is a advice and a request at the same time. Drop in your messages in the comment box. What should we ask him next? And please don't make them easy. I want them to be as tricky as you guys can ask. Please put in the draw box, and I'm going to make sure that we get him back on this podcast series where we can ask him again such tricky questions. So till that time, follow us if you haven't. Subscribe to Shivadiyant if you haven't. With that being said, thanks for watching Shivadiyant, and we'll be back with another episode. Till then, take care and take good care of yourself and your parents.